Ladies and gentlemen, even after removing the intake manifold, exhaust manifold, wiring, and timing components, it's still kind of a chore to remove the cylinder head from this 2017 Subaru Forester with this 2.5 liter FB engine. Let me show you what that takes. Now, I've chosen to remove the driver's side already without recording because it would have been very difficult to get my phone down in there with my tools and hands. But now I have the components from this side to use as visual aids. The order we'll be doing this goes as follows. We'll remove the two coils which are held in by one 10mm bolt apiece. We'll remove the valve cover which is held in by 8 10mm bolts. We'll remove this front bearing cap which is held in by 4 12mm bolts. Each one of these back bearing caps are held in by two 12mm bolts apiece. We will loosen those bolts just enough to lift the camshafts up and pull each one of these cam followers out with a magnet. Once those are out of the way, we'll take those 12mm bolts the rest of the way out, remove the camshafts, then we're going to remove this frame right here which is held in by 9 12mm bolts. Once that's out of the way, we can take off our cylinder head by removing 6 12.14mm torque to yield bolts. Starting with these 10mm coil bolts right here. Boy, that was in there. Just gonna break those loose and spin those out. I won't make you watch me struggle with the ratchet though. With those guys out of there, these things are tight, but they come out. Remove both of those. Now we're gonna get after these three top valve cover bolts right here. With those out, I'm gonna go after this one right down here. That's the next one. This doesn't give you a lot of room, but once she's broken loose, you can spin it out. I won't make you watch that either. Now that's out of there, I'm going to have to reposition you to see the front. And that's going to be this little guy right there. Ratchet doesn't fit in there, so we use a wrench. I'm going to use this ancient wrench that doesn't ratchet or anything to get that off. But I won't make you watch that. Once it's broke loose, you can spin it with your fingers. He's out of there. Now we're going to go underneath. Now down here we're going to remove this back one first. That's because it's the hardest to reach and we want it to spin out easily. We don't want the weight of the valve cover making it more difficult to turn than it already is. And like always, I won't make you watch. Once it's loose, you can turn it out with your fingers. That's why we don't want the weight of the valve cover on it. This is probably easier for right-handed people. I'm a southpaw. Next is at the very front right here. There's no way I can brace the camera there, so you're just going to have to imagine me turning it. Now that that's out of there, we'll get after the easiest one. That's this one right here. Not going to make you watch me break it loose. There, all of the bolts are out of the valve cover. It didn't pop loose on its own, so I'm going to have to pry it loose with something flat. Here we are, and there we go. We'll just down in there. Back here too, some Permatex or silicone in there, so they come out a little hard. There, that's out. Now there's 4 12mm for this bearing cap right here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's take those out. With those all out of there, you got to be pretty gentle about this, but just find something flat and loosen this. Just work it out, top and bottom. Try not to bind anything up. Give it a little wiggle, whatever. Let me go to the bottom. Now I need 2 hands to do this, so you can't actually watch, but what I'm going to do is put my tool in right here and loosen this like such while I hold it with my other hand. Now back up top, starting with the bottom camshaft, I'm just going to loosen these bolts. I'm going to back them out about halfway, just enough so I can get the camshaft to pop out a little bit and let the cam followers out. Little tricky getting my fingers on here. I'm reaching from underneath just so I can try to get my fingers in the shot, not block it with my fat wrist, but we're just backing them out halfway. Just like that. Now we're going to do the same thing to the middle ones. That bolt and that bolt right there. Just backing them out halfway. Goodness, that's tight. Ah, jeez. Feet are sliding out from underneath me. There we are. I wisened up and grabbed a ratchet. Oh, I'm gonna bleed. Ah, there. Close. Now there's a little lip on the back side of this camshaft you can sort of get behind to pry that out some. Now we just got to wiggle the middle one back and forth until it comes loose. This can take a minute. Now in all my messing around with the bearings, these front two cam followers fell out. I'm going to pull those out, trying my hardest not to drop them on the floor. Now I got to get to the back ones. Those are probably, nope, that one came out. And the cam's only out just a fraction of an inch. It's very close. I'm just going to fish these out like such. Now I can pull that camshaft to the rest of the way out. While you're pulling your bearings out, use your fingers. Never put any sort of tool on this bearing surface or this sealing surface right here on this back bearing. It might take a little bit longer, but be gentle. And then out comes this camshaft right here. Just remember, it'll try to bind up on everything in there. Those are really close tolerances. Just ease them out. If they don't move, try turning it a little bit. But don't bang it against a bunch of stuff either. Camshaft's out. Now on to the top one. We're going to loosen the bearings the same way. I tucked this rag back in here because there's more of a chance of the top ones falling on the ground. With the rag there, they can't bounce when they fall down here, and they'll land on something soft. Now I'm going to start with this back bearing right here. It also has a little lip, just like the bottom one. I'm just going to hold in on the camshaft so I don't drop my cam followers prematurely, and just staying around the bolt, I'm just prying out a little bit. Now I'm going to get onto this middle one. This one I'll grab with this pair of channel locks, if I can get this where it needs to be. And I'm just going to sort of bite the middle of it to keep control of it and just pull out and wiggle it. Now, with one hand underneath of the camshaft to catch the followers, I'm just going to pull out a little bit. And out the front ones come. Now we're going to get after the back ones. My hand underneath of here, and just pull out on the camshaft just a little bit. And out they come. Boy, I'll tell you what, guys, you should see me when I'm not recording. I am truly awesome when you're not looking. This stuff comes apart nice. Okay, those are out. Now we can remove our bearings the rest of the way. My bolts are bound up, so I'm going to have to use a tool to get those back ones. I'll do that. Okay, those back bolts are out. This guy, little silicone on there, doesn't want to let it go. Hold in on the camshaft, don't let it fall. I don't know if it will, but there, she's out. Get this guy someplace safe. And out comes the camshaft, like such. On to the next. This next part, I don't know how important it is, but I think you should do it. Draw a map with an arrow pointing to the top and an arrow pointing to the front and some circles in that configuration right there. Down in here, there are shims on the valve stems. Pull those out and place them where they go on the map. It should be something like this. I know it has cam followers and hydraulic lash adjusters, but it's just good practice to put everything back where it came from. Now we have 9 bolts. One down here that's kind of hard to see, one there, one back there, one here, one here, one here, here, and here. All 9 of those have to be removed. I recorded myself prying this loose, but the dowels were hung up, so it just took too long and I had to delete it. But your pry tool goes right in here. Just give it a twist and this guy comes out. And finally, we can see the 6 14mm 12-point torque to yield cylinder head bolts. Let's take those out. No tricks, definitely not required, but in my opinion, the best possible way to remove these head bolts is the top middle one, then the bottom middle one, then the outside 4 in an X pattern. I'll be using a 12-point 14mm socket on a 3/8 ratchet with a piece of pipe for a breaker. With your bolts slid all the way out like such, just find something to pry gently against, and she's free. There you have it, the cylinder head is off. I'm sorry I didn't show myself disconnecting the lines to the EGR cooler. I'm sure you watched waiting for me to disconnect those, and I didn't. I literally didn't even realize until the cylinder head was completely unbolted, and then it was a problem. After all this stuff is cleaned up and inspected, I will put it back together with new gaskets, and I will make a video showing you how to put those followers back in.